What is going on, everyone? Tim from Tierfon Orbital. So today I would like to talk a little bit about a speeder bike related hilt. It kind of is a speeder. I mean, I called it a speeder when I built it. So that is what we're going to roll with, right? So this speeder has a little bit of a story behind it. The speeder has been around, right? So it started off as a hilt in my personal collection. It started off as a Mecha hilt from the POC store. I purchased this hilt secondhand from somebody. Somebody got this unanodized. It was bare aluminum. The person also added their own guard at the pommel, right? So when I purchased this, I went about making my own modifications to it, and it just kind of sat in my collection for a little while, right? So I sold it, and it bounced around to a couple of people, right? So it was sold twice that I know of, until finally coming to a third owner. And unfortunately, this was sold in a broken condition. The most recent owner, received the hilt, received the lightsaber, and it was damaged. There was a lot that was damaged with the hilt. So the current owner sent me this hilt back, which was pretty interesting to get this back after its long journey. So like over the years, I've received messages from all the people that have owned it saying, "Hey, I've got your hilt. It's cool, yada yada." So it's been interesting to get this back and revisit it, right? So I wanted to obviously put an updated chassis into this hilt, repair what was damaged in it, and make it shine again, right? So we'll come into Fusion and talk a little bit about the chassis, and then obviously we'll come up top. I want to talk about the mods that I did to the hilt. I did do a video on this, but it's been a long time since we talked about it, so I want to revisit it, talk a little bit about what I did to it, and then obviously we'll do a demo and we'll be on our way, right? So let's come into Fusion. All right, so here is the chassis that I have redone for this hilt. I've stepped down to an 18350 battery in this build. So I just so happen to have the old chassis here, and I will show that when we do an up top. But the old chassis, so on the inside of this hilt is 1 inch internal diameter. The old chassis, I felt as though the board was like danger close to the inside of the chassis. So I wanted to give the board as much real estate as I could in this build. And I just decided to go with an 18350 build. I've said this before in the past. I feel like 18350s just do not get enough love in builds. They're perfectly fine in my opinion. Obviously, you will not get as much runtime as you will with an 18650, but in my opinion, I'm fine with that. So yeah, we just chose to go with an 18350 in this one, right? So why don't we start at the bottom? 24 millimeter speaker down here. This is from Smuggler's Outpost. I do have a very small hole going down the spine of the hilt. That is where I bring my leads up to the board. Okay, I have a window here for a 2020 NeoPixel strip. That way we get some shine through. And that's it, right? Battery tray is here. I do have some greebly work on both sides of the chassis. So this is the first time I have done the chassis in all PLA carbon fiber. I have not printed any of the greeblies in resin. I've done the whole thing in PLA. I'm trying to calibrate and find out what I can get away with detail-wise on a chassis with greeblies, right? I like doing the greeblies in resin, but I wanted to see how far I can push the Carbon X1 greebly wise, right? Kill switch is right here. I do have that kind of at an angle, right? Just underneath the board. Profi board does sit here. This is a Profi V3 build. There is a 6-rail PCB up top. This is what we make connection to the upper part of the hilt with, right? And that's it. Fully removable chassis. Relatively simple setup. So let's come up top. Okay, so here is the old chassis. So this is a Pepto Bismol pink. I think I called it when I first did this. So I think my reasoning behind doing this in pink was that because this is it was a mecha, like Gundam themed hilt, I wanted to have it like a beam sword colored chassis. but the pink just did not come out looking very good. No greebly work on this chassis. Like it's cool to see like the progression of like how, you know, how my chassis used to look back in the day to now. Like I've learned a lot, especially like how to secure my board. I would not have been comfortable having my board this close to the edge of the chassis nowadays, right? So yeah, that was the old chassis. So I just decided to upgrade it, right? So here is the hilt. Let's talk a little bit about the hilt itself, okay? So when I purchased this hilt, it was another, I'd say 2 to 3 inches longer, okay? So I chopped the hilt at the pommel and took another 2 inches off of it. And then I JB welded the pommel back in place. I wanted this to have a shorter profile, okay? I designed and 3D printed my own red button down here. So this entire housing has been 3D printed and then glued together. This red button is actually a spring red button, okay? You can actually press it. Obviously, it's not wired up to anything, but there is a spring action on that, okay? This guard was put in place by the original owner, so I just kept that there. Okay, I did replace the lugs that were holding that in place. The grip, so I designed a grip, decorative grip wrap. I don't know really what you would call that, but I designed a decorative grip wrap to go over this grip, and I split it down the middle. So I wanted that to line up just so perfectly so that when you clock this grip, everything lines up, right? So when you unscrew it and thread it in all the way till it stops, everything lines up. I have not done this since. I actually really like this. I did this in like a polyurethane resin. I haven't done this yet. Again, I want to try doing this again. I thought that was a really cool application. I just haven't had a chance to do that again, right? These two parts were aluminum. I removed the anodization and did a surfing treatment on those and then put them back in place. What else did we do to this? So this control box, originally these control boxes are just blocks, right? So I took this to a sanding drum bit to make it concave on the inside so that it would sit flush with this emitter. I think I did that. I can't remember if I bought this already concave or if I did it myself. I honestly cannot remember. But I have done that before where I've had to make a part concave so it sits flush with the emitter, right? I did drill some holes in the control box to add some steel tactile switches. So one of the things, there are a number of things damaged with this hilt, right? So the emitter had fallen all the way down into the body of the hilt. It really looked like somebody had just completely jammed the blade down into the hilt. So that was damaged. Both switches had fallen into the control box. So I reinforced those with some JB weld just to make sure that they wouldn't move anymore. These two LEDs were damaged. So there was a lot wrong that I just wanted to fix, right? Clamp card up top is from Brad over at Sloth Furnace. And that's it, right? We've got two LEDs up top, a green and an orange, and a lit PCB emitter. This knurled thumb screw is something else that I did myself. It's just a vintage thumb screw that I drilled a hole through the center and just added a brass rod inside of it. This corrugated tube is a stainless steel bezel. It's just a stainless steel kind of bar, flat bar or panel that I wrapped around a brass tube and then removed it from the tube. And that's where my switch leads are. They're going through that into the body of the hilt. So this is like it's actually in use conduit, right? But that is sterling silver. That's it. So let's get at the chassis. So here is the chassis. Let's take the battery out of it. So here's the chassis. I did a pass of pewter rub and buff on this. There's that accent strip. Profi board is here. So to use your hilt, 18350 battery, take the negative side is towards the speaker. So take the flat part of your battery, put it in your battery tray, hit that kill switch.
You do have a great many things to explain.
There is that NeoPixel strip. So once you get your battery in, the way that I have been putting it in the hilt, so I put the chassis in the pommel first.
Be careful not to choke on your aspirations, Director.
Put it all of the way down into the grip until it stops. And then you can screw it into the hilt until it stops. And then you're ready to go. So there are those two lit LEDs in that control box. All right, so let's come down to the bottom. I'm gonna tighten the screws that are holding this guard in place because it's kind of flapping around a little bit. See what else we put on here.
I am a Jedi, like my father before me.
There are those two accents in the control box. Again, I mentioned that already. A little bit of shine through in that emitter. Right? Let's put a blade in it. All right, so 1-inch blade holder. There is a knurled thumb screw that will serve as your blade retention. So just kind of rest your blade on those PCB pins. Tighten your set screw or your blade retention screw or your knurled thumb screw. And you're ready to go. Let's see what else we put on here. One more. One more. All right. So that's it. That is the MechaRan from Tierfon Orbital. I mean, it's just kind of like an amalgamation of a bunch of different stuff, right? So it was really cool to just revisit this, make it shine again, and yeah, it was neat to put a different chassis in, or a new chassis in it, right? So anyhow, to the customer, thank you very much for trusting me with your install. So if anyone has any questions about this particular build or anything really, please do not be a stranger. And with that being said, may the force be with you always. Have a good one, everybody.